Hello everybody. Not just one helping of me this week, but two. You've heard of Bog Off, buy one get one free. Well, this week it's Wog Off, watch one get one free. A couple of short videos, and I wanted to put them together, partly to pad it out, let's be honest. But essentially I wanted to illustrate the fact that there are occasions when you go out expecting an easy ride, so to speak, and it turns out to be exactly the opposite. And there are other occasions when you go out expecting to struggle and it actually works out fine. And that's what's happened with both these videos that you're going to see. The first one is of an extremely well-known and recognisable landmark here in Liverpool. Theoretically, technically, it's called St John's Beacon. Other people refer to it as the Radio City Tower. And it is basically a 400-foot high observation tower, which was originally opened in 1969. And for many years it had a revolving restaurant, in Cloud Cuckoo Land today, a revolving restaurant at the top, which eventually was closed down partly through health and safety reasons. And then at the end, I think in the 80s, it was basically a lack of trade. But it's now home to our local radio station, Radio City, hence the alternative name. And there is a public viewing gallery, which is where I went and where I'm going to take you for the first video. So we'll have a look at that now. It's only about 4 or 5 minutes long, and I'll come back to you at the end and explain exactly what was going on.
Yes, I did. I had to take some on the ultra wide lens and the telepathic lens.
So there we are. That was my trip up to the viewing gallery in St John's Beacon. The problem that I had, as you've probably already worked out from looking at the images, was one of horrible colour casts. I couldn't get the colour balance right for a lot of the images, and try as I might in post, I just couldn't really get rid of some of the colour casts. And it took me quite a while. I don't like being beaten by stuff like that. It took me quite a while to understand what the problem was, and I think it boils down to the fact that I was shooting through glass. Obviously not all these observation towers around the world, and there are some much higher than 400 feet of St John's Beacon, but many of them are open to the fresh air. St John's Beacon is glazed. So I came back and did a little bit of research on the internet, and the refractive index of the glass that gets used in buildings like this is a whole subject on its own. I'm not going to bore you with it. But basically, I think the main issue was the fact that depending on where I was around the circumference of the observation deck, I was looking at different angles into the sun or away from the sun, and also at different angles to the actual panes of glass, because in St John's Beacon they are all angled out, which means that with the little 14mm Lumix lens that I had, I was actually pressing that flat against the panes of glass, no reflection, 9 times out of 10, no issues with colour balance. The other lens that I took with me was the 100 to 300 Lumix for those close-up shots of the cathedral, for example. And obviously with that, I was holding it horizontal, which meant the glass was at an angle to me. And not only that, it was at I wasn't perpendicular to the glass. So sometimes I was shooting through the glass, but at an angle. And the big issue, I think, is that, for one thing, not shooting at a perpendicular angle to the glass. And also, the glass seemed to cast peculiar colours depending on where the sun was in any particular frame. And I just found it very frustrating, and I thought you might like to know why I struggled so much. It's a problem I've not come across before. As I mentioned in one of the images of the cathedral, I gave up and converted it to black and white, to monochrome. Cheating, but it gave me a better image at the end of the day. So that was my trip to St John's Beacon. Now this next video, which I think is about 6 minutes in length, meant me shooting in the, twilight hours. I went out at, about 4:30, 4:45 in the UK, and the clocks have changed here now, so it was getting dark when I started shooting, and it was at an annual festival which we hold in Liverpool called the River of Light, and it's basically a selection of art installations all around the city, and in particular on the waterfront. They're all illuminated, and obviously the best time to go is when it's dark or getting dark. So I was fully expecting to have all sorts of problems. I shoot micro four thirds, as you probably know. I don't use a tripod, and I deliberately didn't take one with me. I wanted to push the camera as much as I could, and I think I did. So I was expecting A, lots of noise, B, lots of people, and C, awkward compositions. Now, I hope you'll agree that I managed to put up with and make use of the people. There were an awful lot of people there, by the way. I think I've got the best out of the group shots where people are included. I mean, I wasn't posing anybody, don't get me wrong. I think I've done well with that, and I think the camera did a fantastic job when it comes to noise and dynamic range. Now, before anybody says, I fully appreciate if I'd gone down there with a full frame camera, the dynamic range would have been better. I wouldn't have had to use much in the way of post-production techniques. None of these images have been sharpened, by the way, in post-production, before you ask. They have been lightened and tweaked and cropped, and I put my usual border around them, but apart from that, they're pretty much, I'm not going to say untouched, but light editing, I think, is what I would say. So I think the camera performed well. I performed as well as could be expected. And I hope you enjoy some of the images. Let's roll the video. So that was the River of Light Festival. I hope you enjoyed some of the images, and I hope you agree that considering I was using a Micro Four Thirds camera, very high ISOs, what, 12.5 I think, something like that, 16,000 was the highest ISO setting. Obviously, as the light dropped, the ISO rating went up. I left it on usually with the 6mm, I left the 6mm wide angle lens at 5.6 auto ISO, so I let the camera decide for itself. And with the 12 to 50, which I didn't use a great deal, it was really the same sort of thing, to be honest with you. And that's how I approached it. And that's the way that I normally like to attack subjects these days. Leave the camera on auto ISO and let it do its own thing. I was quite pleased with the results. I hope you liked some of them. And I hope you appreciate why I've put the video together in this way. One outing where I was expecting an easy ride, a second outing where I was expecting a lot of trouble, and it didn't materialize. So that's all for now. I hope everybody is safe and sound. In the near future, I'll be giving you my opinions on the highly respected Zuiko 12 to 40 2.8 Pro lens, which I've just got. Haven't used it a great deal yet. The weather has been absolutely atrocious, but I'm hoping to get out and about with it. And I'm looking forward to making a comparison between that and my lovely 12 to 50, which I've had for quite some time now. Probably one or the other is going to have to go, and I will give you my decision when you see the review of it. But for now, I'm going to say, as ever, enjoy your photography, whether you struggle or whether you sail through it. Look after yourselves, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.